Hello and welcome to Mandalore. I'm Fish Grakowski. This is Nathan Martin, my co-host. We're here to talk about The Mandalorian Chapter 14, which after kind of a cheerful opening sequence where Jin is playing with Grogu, and if you don't know who those are, you're watching the wrong podcast video show. But the title pops up and it's called The Tragedy. Indeed, there was some tragedy. But keeping with tradition, pretty sure you like this one, Nathan, but let's dive in.
Yeah, I know. It kind of sucks, man. This episode was really, I enjoyed this episode as well. Directed by Rebel Without a Crew himself, Robert frickin' Rodriguez. Holy smokes. And you picked the right director to do this kind of action and pacing, because obviously that's kind of what he's known for. That and 3D kids movies. Yeah. But anyway.
Right? Yeah.
My kids, man.
Yeah. Did you catch that backwards firing? That's like pretty you guys, right?
Yeah, he's awesome. All of the directors are awesome, but it was just I didn't know that he was directing this one. And I do have to say though, right off the top of the bat, I'm just gonna say I got two things right. Last season, I said that there was no way that they killed off Ming-Na Wen's character Fennec, and I was right.
Absolutely, I agree with you.
Two, I said that by the end of the season, the Empire will have captured Grogu. So I was right about that thing.
Yeah.
I was wrong about one thing, though.
What's that?
Everyone on the internet said, including you, actually, I think last season, said that the feet walking up to Fennec on Tatooine would be Boba Fett, and I said that they weren't, and I was wrong.
Yeah, I did say that because they were on Tatooine, and I was really, really hoping that would be the case. And there we were. Like the second they showed that in the previously on, I was just like, oh, they're gonna do it. They're gonna do it. Yeah, so that was lovely. Great episode overall. It almost felt clunky at the beginning, like with that very expository. Mando is telling Grogu, what he's up to, and it's but pretty quick we get to that seeing stone, and that was really cool. And then they're at the seeing stone, and then you kind of hear a ship, and then you see Slave One, and you're just like, oh yeah, there we are. That's what we wanted. Yeah. And I mean, we've been talking about this for a long, long time. The idea of like two Mandalorians smashing into each other. Yep. You can see behind me there's the Art of the Mandalorian book, and sort of I haven't read through it yet, but there's definitely talk that it could have been a show about Boba Fett, all this sort of stuff, but they're like, yeah, why not just kind of make that way more exciting as we slowly bring back Boba Fett. And Boba Fett, obviously spoilers in this
full spoilers.
Yeah, full spoilers, but Boba Fett's just in this, and it's the most we've ever seen Boba Fett. And I mean, like Raider gaffy stick, and he's just like murdering stormtroopers, and he's just so awesome. The viciousness on his face, we finally, I think, feel like why Han Solo is like Boba Fett, like he's scared of him. I mean, he knows about him, and he's terrified of this guy, and he's vicious. I mean, there's a stormtrooper sitting on the ground there, and he just goes and, like they show the gaffy stick dragging behind him like a 80s horror movie or something. And he just kills him, and he's stabbing people. And I think I tried counting at the beginning, but I think we have like something like 40 stormtroopers are killed. And then that scene where his little targeter comes down and he shoots the missile, and then he's like, I was aiming for the other one. It's just I love that kind of scale of things. I always want that more. Like, that was a great scene in Rise of Skywalker where Rey and Kylo are fighting over that ship with and I mean, these are very powerful people. A spaceship is something they can, like, you should be terrified if you're fleeing them. and turned out pretty bad for them. You love Fennec. Do you want to talk about her a bit, like how she turned out?
Yeah, I kind of like the idea that I really like the idea that, one, she wasn't killed, Two, now the Mandalorian has like a crew of another Mandalorian in Boba Fett and an expert marksman, super cool assassin. The one thing I wasn't prepared for was the robot abdomen thing. I was like, she's just like, oh yeah, look, I've got gears in my stomach. And I was like, okay.
I have a friend who just got back surgery and she's sort of always showing her scars. So I think that's just the thing. Yeah,
Oh, okay.
kind of going down a Vader route there, right? It's like yeah, but okay, go on.
Well, I mean, you kind of forgive it because it is Star Wars, and in the Star Wars universe, we very well know, like, if something gets hacked off or limbed, there's a robot somewhere that can put more robot parts into other things, and you're just always part robot, biomechanics and stuff.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Luke Skywalker, right? Darth Vader, obviously. So, there's a big precedent. I liked her a lot, and I really, you just touched on it. I love, there's a scene where Mando is flying with Grogu, and he's like, looks like we'll have to travel the last stretch with the windows down. Such a great line. That's
Yeah.
and he just sort of lands in that sort of Stonehenge seeing circle, and he's. It just felt like a Marvel movie. I mean, it's very.
Yeah.
And so now we're getting this beautiful, exciting thing where, because of the fact that Boba Fett is kind of showing a bit of a creed in a way, and he's sort of like, well, the deal's not done yet. The child is still not safe, so we've decided we're gonna help you. Like, and it's interesting. It's this kind of bucking off of No Honor Among Thieves, because these are sort of bounty hunter types, all of them, but also Boba is very much like a foundling, as is Darren, and I mean, like, they're kind of obsessed with this idea of like fathers and sons and being taken care of by rough characters, and so, I mean, now we have this insane Star Wars superhero team. Like, really, call it what it is, right? Like, it's a super, and they're coming for Moff Gideon, and Moff Gideon should be afraid, because I think not only does Moff Gideon have that to worry about, but I think he has Thrawn to worry about somewhere in the background, and I think we're probably going to see him, maybe played by the Mickelson brother, in the last episode. And then the other thing is, like, Grogu phoned home.
Oh yeah.
So something is gonna come for that, and I mean, I keep feeling it's gonna be Skywalker, Luke. It could be Ezra from Rebels, but the show is coming together, and I really love the way that not only are we getting all these callbacks to Slave One and Dark Troopers, for God's sake. I mean, like, from Dark Forces, like that very Vader-y looking, those robots. I mean, that's essentially how they evolved into in the series of video games. And I mean, like, but the show, because Fennec returns, and we keep getting, like, we see Cara Dune, by the way, explaining that's a Marshal's badge that Darth handed her, right? So I mean, I just love the way the show is moving forward, looking back, moving forward, looking back. It's this beautiful balancing act. I'm completely in love.
it honestly feels like someone actually has a plan for the storyline, and like you can allow other creators to maybe sprinkle their own little salt and pepper in each one of their episodes, but there really feels like there is a through line, that they have a plan going from here to here. And I really, I mean, just another little moment when Fennec frickin' pushes that boulder and it just goes down, and I'm waiting, and the stormtrooper with the repeater, I'm thinking, he's gonna blow up the rocket. Nope, it just right on him. Oh man, that was like, the action in this was really good. The laugh out loud moment for me though was Grogu doing the Force stuff in the Imperial ship, and then Gideon's like, put him in handcuffs, and I'm like, I laughed so hard the fact that they had handcuffs for Baby Yoda. I'm sitting, and he's asleep like this, and like, because his wrists can't be any bigger than like maybe this, and they make handcuffs for I guess wrists that small. I mean, creatures are different sizes.
Star Wars is all about contrasting scale, like R2-D2 against Chewbacca, and I mean, you know, if they ever caught Babu Frick from Rise of Skywalker, you know, you'd need some doll.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, I love that too. But I also got kind of emotional watching that because I mean we're seeing kind of an unrestrained Grogu like beating the crap out of stormtroopers. That scene was also awesome because Moff Gideon showed joy. And I think often, like, I complain about all sorts of movies of you know, in terms of bad guys being very like, you know, like they're all grouchy. But I mean, we both do that. But I mean, what we love about the Emperor so much is he's actually having kind of a good time. Like, I think the entire Star Wars galaxy owes so much of its pain to the fact that Palpatine is just screwing around and playing with his toys like a little incel like solo kid who doesn't have any brothers and sisters. He's screwing around with all these people. And anyway, and so in like in Revenge of the Sith, we see him just laughing his head off while he's spinning the council chamber little pods and throwing them at Yoda. He's having a hoot, and I love the fact that we sort of now see what is driving Moff Gideon a little bit. He's like, he's really into this. I don't know if he wants to train this kid or whatever. He's obviously after his blood, but I mean, like, you know, he knows where this kid's coming from, and I like that. I like the threat of all that. So I think that's
yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think what this episode showed in terms of Moff Gideon is in the previous season, he showed that he knew everyone who was in the bar that they were just about to kill. So he has a vast knowledge, which very much ties into Thrawn, because that's kind of what Thrawn's thing was. It's what made him such an efficient leader in the Imperial Army, was because he would study and understand like different cultures and all this stuff, because to him it was like he would learn to respect a culture or a type of person, and he felt that would allow him to be more efficient in either capturing or destroying those cultures. And it sounds very much like Gideon is sort of following in that same line.
Interesting. Did you read the books, or are you sort of taking that from Rebels, or?
I read the Timothy Zahn trilogy that was made the official, and then all of that EU stuff got wiped out. But clearly, was it Rebels or Clone Wars?
Rebels had Thrawn in it.
Yeah, and clearly Filoni liked that character from the books. Thrawn has been a character in the comics and stuff like that. And that's just what I read them when I was younger. I think I still have them, actually. They're really good. It was a really good trilogy. But that character remained that way even in the Rebels show as well. He was very meticulous about what he was doing.
Yeah, I read I think the first book, and because I'd read Splinter of the Mind's Eye back in 78 or whatever, 79, and then Empire Strikes Back wasn't it, I forever turned my back on all EU stuff. I'm like, they're just gonna make a movie in squid, right? So I never trusted it, and when Disney came along, that turned out to be valid. But I have talked to EU adherents, and they're fairly happy with the Thrawn stuff, and they seem trying to stitch him in, and for all we know, Luke is going through all that stuff that happened in the Zahn books right now. I wonder, there's one line I didn't want to forget. It's great. Boba Fett is flying Slave One, and he's chasing the Dark Troopers, and he goes like, "This isn't a spice dream. I can see the Imperial." But I had to listen to that twice. He's basically not tripping on a drug hallucination, but just those touches they just make this show so wonderful. I don't know. I think if you could complain about anything, because I remember last episode, we had homework. We were supposed to complain about something.
Yes.
The last episode, I did find one minor thing. It was just basically like, I felt that Mando kind of let Ahsoka off the hook a little easy in a way. It's just, she's like, well, I have another thing. You could just take him to a rock and maybe he'll get trained them. And Mando's like, okay. It's just like, that's a terrible deal. Anyway, and in this one, basically Fett could have, like, when he's first after the armor, he could have like stopped their whole problem. And I mean, quickly they're fighting the Empire. But he could have just said, well, my dad is a foundling. And then that's kind of the end of the argument. Let's go get the armor and I can prove it, like my fingerprints on it or whatever. hit it dramatically, and what are you gonna do? But I'm not even gonna register that with the imperial authorities as an actual complaint. I mean, it's a fun episode. Very, very kind of like, it just felt like kind of an episode of like Magnum PI or something like that. They're just like beating people up and very physical. But as you said, then we go to kind of Bugs Bunny and Roadrunner where people are getting flattened by things. Man, I don't know. Just keeps giving. Just keeps giving. And of course, not forget, it reminded me of this episode of Miami Vice once. Sonny Crockett's there and there's a drug dealer and he's like, well, is this bazooka any good? And he's like, well, let me show you. And he goes and he blows his car up, right? and there's this like the cliched sunglasses scene. He's like, and this sort of happens here. Like there's no more Razor Crest, and I thought that was just so minor, but boom, that ship, which I think it's the most sense of place we had in the show, and it's gone now. And I mean, I think in a way, we're gonna get Grogu back, I'm sure, but the tragedy of the episode to me is the loss of our favorite spaceship.
Yeah. Well, who knows? Maybe Mando will end up with Slave One by the end of the season.
Yeah, I almost don't want him to, but it could happen. I mean, it's interesting to think about that. Like, is Boba Fett gonna make it all the way through? Does he have a hero's death? This kind of thing. I mean, that's big. Those are big chess pieces they're moving around, and I'm not sure if they're allowed to do that. But yeah. I don't want him to have Slave One. I honestly want him to find an old Razor Crest somewhere and get that back.
And just build it up. Yeah.
So, but I mean,
now that we've got 2 episodes left, we're guessing?
Yeah.
So I'm assuming next episode probably is majority going to be taking the breaking guys out of prison thing.
Mm-hmm.
Which leaves us with the final episode, which I'm still holding on to the fact that the last episode will be we almost got it, but the Empire was just one step ahead, ending this season off with Mando not having Grogu at the end of it. I'm still holding on to that.
And then maybe Grogu like leaning into some kind of like dark lesson or something like that. Like who knows? I'm all I know is I'm excited. I almost don't want to make predictions. I don't want to think about it too much now at this point. I'm just like, yeah, let's just sit back and see what happens. I think we covered it. I mean, it's just a makeout fest, love you, love you, Filoni, love you, Pablo Pascal. I know, we want to see your face a little more. That'd be great. Speaking of which, we lost David Prowse this week, and that sucked. I have a candle right behind me lit. How do you do that? There we go. So that's for you. I just wanted to note that there was Bullock was the guy who played Boba Fett in the original series. He wasn't in this one. They had two different stand-in actors, but good on those guys for their work too. So getting weird and serious at the end, but I don't know. I think that's about it. I can't wait to watch the next 2. And man, this show, it's as you said, he's got a plan, and it's just like it's kind of like a Feige thing with the Marvel universe.
Yeah.
Like it's so enjoyable to be at this kind of early stage of the ride, where I know I was kind of worried about the show feeling bloated and having too much canon, and are we going to see Ezra Bridger from Rebels come in? Like, I don't know, but honestly, I think they're doing a pretty good job of handling it. And this was the shortest episode of the year too.
Yep.
So far, and it left me wanting more, and I think you probably feel the same. Exactly.
I think that I'm beginning to kind of think that actually, just because it is Star Wars, it is Disney, there's a part of me that is kind of thinking like, so actually just today it was announced that the Kenobi show is going to start shooting in Boston, of all places, I think like in the next week or something like that. So they're getting back into action.
It's set in a downstairs bar. Anyway, sorry.
But the interesting thing is I'm thinking like, what if they do like 3 seasons of The Mandalorian? You got yourself a trilogy.
Yeah.
You've got enough character set up for all these other characters. It's like, okay, the Mando has finished. Here's character A from this show, they get their own show, and like the Mando can kind of like cameo on that show, because you don't necessarily need to just keep doing just the Mandalorian, because once he actually achieves the goal of getting Grogu to wherever he wants to be, and then that person or thing is like, well, it's his choice and he wants to stay with you, so what do you want to do? Like that kind of thing.
This is a great...
What?
Yeah, it's a great point you're making. I remember when it first was announced that there was going to be like a solo movie. There had already been kind of word that there was going to be a Boba Fett movie, which I think this evolved into. And I kind of wanted the Star Wars solo movies to work the way you just described, where the first movie's solo, and then you get a movie called Lando, which everybody would love, and then you called Boba Fett, which deals with like Lando and Boba Fett have to, interact with each other. And it all sort of follows a loose thread, like, maybe it's the Black Sun crime organization with Darth Maul or whatever. But I mean, like, I agree with you totally. And in a way, like I've joked that, there'll be 7 seasons of this, but I think you're probably right. I think it would be better if they quit while they were ahead in a certain sense, because that's certainly that's not what the franchise has done in general. But again, here we are at probably the best Star Wars since, like the 80s.
Yeah.
So I'm glad they kept going despite a couple of matches. All right. Well, probably went over our time as usual, but thanks for watching. And only 2 episodes left.
Sad face.
Yeah, very sad face. What are we going to do after? I'm going to miss talking to you on Friday.
I don't know. Is there anything else coming out on Disney Plus, or
maybe we could make our own smash everything. Let's keep it going. It's like, come at me. Anyway, this is the way. See you next week.